2B में है. This also continues the discussion we were doing yesterday. Whether 2B has any role, 2B is a nil document, it's a zero document, in my opinion. It has no value. Because if the 2B confirms your entitlement to input tax credit, then how can they reject it? They cannot reject it. But 2B is mentioned in 62 by the amendment in 22 only for the reason that now based on 2B, only that much input tax credit you can set off against output tax liability which is confirmed by supplier's return and downloaded onto your portal. That is the only function of 2B. It has no connection with the final allowance of input tax credit to you. That is, it will not lie in our mouth to go to proper officer. देखो साहब, 2A 2B don't सब tally करते हैं ना? No, it has no meaning. You still have to prove the conditions. Because when the 2B is filed, your documents are not seen. You are not assessed. It's a self-assessment based on that. So whatever self-assessment you do, it has to be correct. That is the meaning of section 39(1) when we talk of valid return. So once you are supposed to file a valid return, not return, there are two definitions in section 2, return and valid return. So once you are supposed to file a valid return, this means return being a self-assessment order, you have to be very sure that you are satisfying your legitimate claims and all the preconditions are satisfied before you make claims. Otherwise, all these circular trading issues, all documents will match perfectly. Never get credit, I can tell you, not even Supreme Court. You still have to prove a transaction. So whenever you file a reply to any show cause notice, you have to first bring all that you can on record that you had received the goods physically or services and supplier had paid the tax. Now, many property officers say that he should have paid tax in cash. No, 16(4) allows you to pay cash or adjust the eligible input tax credit. Now, the lawmakers have used very serious words. Like I told you yesterday, a word is not osseous. Every word has to be given meaning by the courts. So eligible means your supplier should have adjusted eligible input tax credit. So if a documentary evidence or a report or survey or whatever they bring on record to show that this guy never existed, जो supplier ने input tax credit claim किया है, जिस बंदे से उसने माल खरीदा है, वो बंदे कभी थे ही नहीं. Now, as lawyers we can say how is it my responsibility? I have a contractual privity with the immediate supplier. Supposing I have a contract with ईला, तो मेरा तो इसके साथ देखा ना मेरे को. अब ईला ने सुरेश के साथ क्या किया मुझे क्या पता. अब वो कहते हैं कि ईला के इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट सुरेश के बेस पे ये सुरेश फ्रॉड है. सुरेश कहते हैं मैंने धर्मपाली से माल लिया है. वो कहते हैं धर्मपाली कभी एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं किए. Since GST is a value addition tax, it is supposed to be revenue neutral. That is the philosophy of GST law, like that. So in such cases, if government starts giving you input tax credit where they never got output tax, then it defies the basic philosophy of GST. Then it's not a revenue neutral. The government will be debited by the amount you claim. So that courts may not permit. May not permit. You have to wait for Supreme Court. But so far, all high courts are not giving relief on this issue. That's why people are being arrested. So when you come to 16, you have to be careful. 180 days. All these conditions apply to exporters also. That's why I'm discussing this issue. Section 16, 17 are omnipotent. They are powerful for IGST also. IGST, there is no separate provision for input tax credit. So all the recent circular है कि all exporters claim for refund shall be verified. For what? अगर export हुआ तो किस पर की verification है? Verification is only the unutilized input tax credit they claim. If you make export by paying tax, there is no issue. They won't verify anything, you get online refund. But if you are filing LUT and claiming unutilized input tax credit as a cash refund in 54, section 54, then they can verify your documents. So we will discuss this in relation to IGST also. So 16, 17, you have to be very, very careful. Then the concept of section 73, 74, again relevant. And we will touch bill to ship to transaction. How do we do it? Because what I find from people who send some opinions, they don't know how to do it. They know it can be done, but they don't know what are the requirements of law. how do you prove when these transactions are questioned. We will also discuss the concept of exports, imports, intermediaries, and the place of supply. Only concept. We are not going into section 13 in detail, it's not required. We will do only 13.1 and subsection 32. All other are exceptions to section 31 and 32. So with this background, keep in mind the definitions. That is the key to your understanding. If you do not understand how to do definition, whatever discussing, it will be a sixer for you. You will understand nothing. घर में जाकर पढ़ोगे आपको समझ नहीं आएगा. Keep rotating those words of definitions, because IGST uses this means word almost in every paragraph. They are restricting the scope of an interpretation by using the word means. So whenever a section uses the word means, such as comprises, it means the legislative intent is to restrict the interpretation to that what is written in that provision. You cannot have a lawyer's view कि इसका ये भी हो सकता है, नहीं हो सकता. If Customs Act have some other definitions, we are not concerned. We are concerned with definition that is given here. I'll tell you where Customs Act differs. If I remember everything, then I'll tell you. So similarly, like SEZs, you cannot jump SEZ है अच्छा ले लो. No. You have to satisfy that the SEZ is eligible for whatever refund they are entitled to. Because SEZ is defined in Section 2 IGST Act. There's a developer, there's a co-developer, there's a SEZ authority. They are defined. You have to go back to that act, read the conditions, and then say whether you are entitled to refund or not. Not otherwise. Right? So let's start IGST. Then tomorrow we do section 54. Whenever you read an act, you have to first always read preamble. Make it a habit. Not this act, any act you read. Every act is governed by a preamble. इस act का मतलब क्या है? If there is any levy which is outside preamble, court will declare it unconstitutional. Thus, Parliament has given permission to central government to levy taxes on these activities only. If they have to levy more taxes, they have to amend the constitution. This says provision for levy and collection of tax on interstate supply of goods or services of both by central government and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. So only central government has been given power to levy and collect tax on interstate supply of goods or for matters connected or incidental thereto, nothing else. Right? Since exports have been declared by a constitutional amendment in Article 249A to be interstate supply, therefore exports have been taxed in IGST law. That's why when you export, you pay tax and claim a refund. It's not tax free. Tax free is where it's zero rated. There's a difference between zero rating and tax free. Tax free in terms of rate schedules. Rate schedule में कहीं नहीं लिखा कि export tax free. This is zero rated. जो आपने tax दिया आपको उसका पैसा वापस मिलता है. Right? We will go to section 2, subsection 2. You might laugh, what is this? But this is a very significant definition for section 54. Central tax means the tax levied and collected under Central Goods and Services Tax Act only. That is why custom duty is a central levy. You do not get refund of custom duty because central tax is defined here. If central tax was not defined, then we lawyers have gone to the extent that custom duty central tax है, refund दो इसका. Right? So all duty drawbacks are relating to central tax. So there is a provision in by the Circular and Customs Act उसका आप क्या करना है आपको. We will discuss when we do section 54. But central tax is जो आपका CGST में tax लगता है. It has no other meaning in terms of GST law. You will forget the continuous turning. Custom frontier of India means the limits of customs area as defined in section 2 of the Customs Act. Section 2 subsection 11 of Customs Act defines this. It means all those areas that are notified under section 7 of Customs Act, including a warehouse or a free trade zone where the custom authorities allow the goods to be kept before custom clearance. That is called custom area. Now, if you do not read this section 2, subclause 11, then you have a problem. So custom area is all those areas where custom authorities allow goods to be kept before they are cleared at customs, including a free trade zone and a warehouse. So that is the meaning of custom area. Then is export of goods. Central Act has a different definition. Constitution Article 286 has a different definition. Customs Act have a different language, though it's the same meaning, but we have a different language. In Customs Act, export is defined in section 2 within bracket 19 of Customs Act 1962. There the use is where goods are to be taken out. Where goods are to be taken out. Here the language is not this. Here it is a present tense, means taking out. So दोनों फ्रेजों में लॉ में बहुत ज़्यादा फर्क है. We are not discussing customs, so I will not confuse it with the customs interpretation. But here is means taking out. So unless goods are taken out by the supplier, he cannot get any relief. You should remember Central Act, there was a concept of format. We used to call penultimate exports. That is, if as an exporter I have an order from Suresh in England, I place an order Ilagar, I have to satisfy this requirement. Ilagar supplies to me, I supply to him. For me also they were deemed exports, and I was issuing formats to you. I'm supplying goods to you, I was not paying tax. There is no such concept in GST. It means taking out goods out of India. So if you want to claim an export benefit, the first condition as a professional you have to say is, did he export the goods? So all those canalizing agencies like STC, PEC, Shipping Corporation of India, they buy goods in bulk from various people and export. The people who are supplying goods to them, they do not become exporters in GST. Whereas in Central Sales Tax, they could have become exporters by issuing formats, right? So here only STC, PEC or other canalizing agencies who import and export on behalf of the central government or state government, only they shall be exporters. So it means taking out. It's not are to be taken out. So you have to read only this definition, not section 219 of Customs Act. Are we clear on exports? You have to take goods out. So when you claim refund, that is why they issued circular. The exporter's refund will be verified. There are found many cases where these kind of claims have been made. Those people have claimed exports. For example, bill to ship to transaction. Exporter ने कहा मेरे को bill कर दो तो बाहर भेज दे. Can you say this is export? That's a debatable issue. That's why this circular has come from Ministry of Finance. The GST law does not allow these kind of exports. Where bill to ship to is not allowed for export of goods, as we will see when we read definition of interstate supply section 8. Whenever you start processing an export refund, you may be 100% sure everything is correct. Make a checklist. Okay, did this man export? There is no contractual relationship required. In section 5 Central Sales Tax, there was a contractual requirement. Here there is no such requirement. You take goods out. So what are you supposed to take out? Goods. Goods as defined in section 2 CGST Act. So only those goods can be taken out for the purpose of export which the importer order you. Export किसको किया आपने? धर्मपाल सुरेश को इंग्लैंड में आपने, मिस्टर वर्मा ने, उसने मांगे डायमंड, आपने पत्थर भेज दिया उसको. That is not export. That is where these exports claim now when are being verified, when they call for documentary evidence. I know one example in Central Sales Tax Act. It's a very bit funny example, but I will narrate it. A case came to me in the verified what all is required. This fellow sent long dresses and claimed benefit. When the assessing authority examined, he said, what is this? Take care. Whether you export, okay. It was taxed. So whenever you see an export transaction, you must pass. That's why I tell you, spend time, charge money. Don't jump filing a refund application.
सर क्या उस केस में मटेरियल वापस आएगा या ट्रांजेक्शन कंप्लीट हो गई?
Complete हो गई. Complete हो गई.
ट्रांजेक्शन कंप्लीट हो गई तो फिर उसका क्या इशू है?
Wow, कमाल है. I told you when you file bill of entry, when you do bill of lading, you have done. आपने माल भेज दिया.
मटेरियल को मंगाया था, एक्सेप्ट भी कर लिया.
सारा एक्सपोर्ट ही फोकस था ना. नहीं वो सारा नहीं तो कैनॉट बी रिफ्यूज बिकॉज यू शुड हैव फॉर्मेट 5(3) में रूल 13 में रिक्वायरमेंट थी आपको वही माल बेचना है जो एक्सपोर्टर ने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करने के लिए देना है. आप एक्सपोर्टर ने नंबर दोगा माल खरीद कर दिया होगा बाहर. सेम चीज में यू हैव इन जीएसटी. यू अंडरस्टैंड? यानी कि दैट इज यू वर द एक्सपोर्टर, आई वाज द सप्लायर टू यू. इट वाज माय स्टैट्यूटरी ड्यूटी टू एंश्योर कि जो आपको इंपोर्ट ऑर्डर मिला है उसके बाद आपने मेरे को ऑर्डर प्लेस करना है और मुझे वही चीज सप्लाई करनी है तभी मेरा फॉर्मेट रेलेवेंट. अच्छा मैंने क्या किया और आपने क्या देना था? इसमें वाज एवरीथिंग रिजेक्टेड फॉर एक्सपोर्ट्स.
फिर इसका मतलब एचएसएन सेम होने चाहिए. एचएसएन कोड एकदम
HSN is only a code. Section 31 requires full description of the item.
अगर वो आपका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मंगा रहे हैं
तो सर वर्बल ऑर्डर नहीं चलेगा ना. जैसे अब कई एक्सपोर्ट की किसी में वर्बल ऑर्डर जिनसे पहले चल रहा होता है उनके वर्बल ऑर्डर चल रहे होता है तो इसका मतलब हर
किसी भी इंटरेस्टेड ट्रांजैक्शन में वर्बल ऑर्डर नहीं चलता. LC cannot be issued on verbal orders. DP cannot be made on verbal orders. There has to be a लिखा नहीं है कहीं पर. It's a part of the trade. Okay.
आज तो सर मेल्स में आ जा रहे हैं.
हाँ देखो मेरे पास फंड एप्लीकेशन लॉ मैं आपका रिफंड प्रोसेस करता हूँ. एक पैसा नहीं दूंगा आपको जितने बड़ी पेपर लेना हो. गारंटी देता हूँ आपको पैसे नहीं दूंगा. कल वेट सेक्शन 54 पढ़ोगे कल पढ़ेंगे. See what happens here in cities like Delhi. These jokers don't know anything except if Papa they have no knowledge. Go to Maharashtra. More than 70% exports of funds have been rejected. High courts have refused to give. Because the documentary evidence doesn't support what you are claiming. उसे रिफंड दे दिया. Once like you were saying रिफंड दे दिया आप क्या करना है? Well, you are section 73-74 ना. Refund erroneously given. Can be recorded back from you. Bill of entry आपने फाइल कर दिया. आपने पूरी ड्यूटी दे दी. कंसर्न सुप्रीडेंट ने एक्सेप्ट करके आपके गुड्स क्लियर कर दिए. Just again, that is why this reassessment and recovery provisions exist. दिल्ली में जो रिफंड दिए गए हैं, आपका टेली कमिश्नर अदर डे, आई चैलेंज हिम कि 90% रिफंड वर रॉन्ग. विवेक अगर वैसे बंदे होंगे तभी वो पढ़ भी नहीं सकता था सेक्शन. मैं उसके ऊपर ही बोला था. Like I am sure you have never read section 54 in your whole life. ये सोमकांत मिश्रा कौन है वो? जो मैं इसका क्या नाम ही नहीं बोलते. उसको कुछ आता आपको लगता है? बस सिर्फ पैसे लेके गए. और नीचे जहाँ प्रॉपर एस्टिक बच जाते उनको कुछ आता है. उनको ये नहीं पता होगा कि कौन से रूल में रिफंड दिया जाता है. ईलागर गई हाँ जी मैं मेंबर एग्जीक्यूटिव सेल टैक्स बार उसके जी कितने पैसे लेने आपने ये लो रिफंड खत्म की बात.
तो यही होता है 3% ना दो 4% ना दो.
Difference between 50 rupees fees and 5 lakh fees is only this. If you have to know money a professional fee, increase your knowledge. Otherwise, remain a Me Too product. हम भी सीए हैं, हम भी वकील हैं, तो आप भी हो बड़े लोग हैं दुनिया में. You want to be a cut above the rest, you have to travel an extra mile. If you don't, then remain a Me Too product. कि हम भी हैं जी, बोलते रहो. उसी रिफंड एप्लीकेशन में अगर सुरेश 10,000 रुपये लेता 50,000 रुपये कमा सकते हो. उसका एग्जाम ही करो ना उसके सामने बैठ के. क्लाइंट को होश आने कि मैंने क्या किया हुआ. वो कहते हैं हाँ यार सुरेश जी को सब जानते हैं डिपार्टमेंट में यार पैसे लेके रिफंड मिल जाना ठीक है. एंड व्हाट इज द चांस ऑफ गेटिंग कॉट 1 or 2% or 3%? But now I believe there is circular coming from Nirmala Sitharaman. All refunds above 50 crores shall be subjected to all. जितने रिफंड हिंदुस्तान में दिए गए तभी उन्होंने 74 की 1 साल की एक्सटेंशन दी. Now you will see what happens. ये सिर्फ गुड़गांव केस का ऑफशूट है. वो फौजी के डॉक्यूमेंट उसको रिफंड दिया गया था ना. वो सीए ने डॉक्यूमेंट फोर्ज कर दिया. अगर उसने उसको ध्यान से प्रोसेस किया तो मुझे काम हो सकता है उसकी गलती ना भी हो, वी डोंट नो, वी कांट ब्लेम एनीबॉडी, बट दिस वाज हिज प्रोफेशनल जॉब टू इंश्योर व्हाट इज फाइलिंग इज करेक्ट। हमारे यहाँ तो लॉ ऑफ टॉर्ट अभी डेवलप नहीं हुआ। अमेरिका में इफ ए लॉयर सर्टिफाइज दिस मॉर्गेज डीड इज करेक्ट, बार काउंसिल इज हेल्ड रिस्पॉन्सिबल इफ द मॉर्गेज डीड इज फाउंड रॉन्ग। वहाँ मॉर्गेज बहुत चलता है, बहुत ज्यादा चलता है, हमारे यहाँ नहीं। तो जब भी आप किसी को गवर्नमेंट से पैसा मांग रहे हैं, वो गवर्नमेंट के अकाउंट से कंसोलिडेटेड फंड ऑफ इंडिया से पैसा वापस मांग रहे हैं और आप एक कैजुअली एप्लीकेशन फाइल कर रहे हैं। Even if you are sure that Mr. Verma is absolutely honest, but it doesn't help him. I can be dishonest, how do you know? Therefore, please go through the paper. Lie there. क्या करना है कि आपने एक्सपोर्ट किया, दिखाओ क्या आपने इंपोर्ट ऑर्डर दिखा दो, चेक करना है और क्या करना है। ये भी यही, अब यही चेक करेंगे, वेरिफिकेशन और क्या करेंगे, ये भी यही करेंगे। लोग जहाँ तक जाते हैं, मेरे केस में जहाँ तक गया था कि जो आप एक्सपोर्ट किए थे वहाँ चेकिंग होती है। Okay, export of services. When the draft law came, export of services was not a part of definition. Now it is a part of definition. So once it is a part of definition and cumulatively satisfied, before you claim refund on export of services, the supplier of service and recipient of service are not merely establishment of a distinct person in accordance with explanation 1 to section 8. कल हम ढूंढ रहे थे, this is explanation 1 to section 8 IGST. Now this is only for the purposes of this act, means only IGST. It will not apply to CGST. It's a different act. Where a person has an establishment in India and any other establishment outside India, an establishment in a state or UT, so and so, this establishment shall be treated as establishment of distinct persons. अभी इन्होंने पीछे कुछ सर्कुलर निकाले थे, where these kind of things have been allowed now. लेकिन as of law today, when we discuss this, कि अगर मिस्टर वर्मा की जहाँ फर्म है और मिस्टर वर्मा की फर्म यूके में भी है, they say कि perhaps if you do this, export of services may not be allowed. But now the circular has come after two judgments. We will discuss when we discuss refund tomorrow. This circular, where these kind of refunds have been allowed under certain circumstances. So 6 conditions आपको satisfy करनी before you say this is export of service. अब हम क्या करते हैं? टैक्स इनवॉइस है, इशू किया इनवॉइस, हाँ सर एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विसेज, क्या सर्विस एक्सपोर्ट किया आपने? कुछ नहीं लिखा, एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विसेज, दिस इज हवाला ट्रांजैक्शन। You have to see is export of services pursuant a written contract. If there is a written contract, there shall be written contract. RBI, no bank releases foreign exchanges in the world where there is no such contract until you use your personal saving account. Right? Agreement देखो उसमें क्या लिखा था. Then you examine कि उसका invoice क्या कहता है. अगर उसने खुद किए, that's okay. Not supposing he has used somebody else to use it. उसने उसका इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट क्लेम किया. Supposing सुरेश एंगेजेस भी मिस्टर वर्मा जी मेरा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बना दीजिए. मैंने इसको बना के दिया, इसने उसको ठीक करके लंदन भेज दिया. So he used my services. Supposing I'm charging him tax as I'm a law firm, so I have to charge him tax. You have to see back-to-back transaction. ये आपने खुद किया था किसी और से कराया. Then you see whether what I have given to Suresh Agarwal, whether this was a contract with the importer. Then you will come to know whether there has been a export of service or it's a fraud. It's not simple कि foreign exchange payment आएगी तो आपकी no that's irrelevant. Even when you are an intermediary, you will receive foreign currency payments. But those transactions do not become export of services. So ये 6 condition आपको satisfy करनी है. Subsection 7 which is just a fixed establishment. Subsection 10, import of goods means bringing goods into India from a place outside India. अब आपको गुड्स इंडिया में लाने हैं. एक तो सीधा आपने इंपोर्ट किया, गुड्स आ गए. सपोजिंग आई हैव अ फॉरेन एजेंट I tell him you buy these goods for me and send to India in my name. That is also bringing into India, because I'm not exporting, I'm bringing goods into India. So what happens, a transaction between a foreign agent and the concerned supplier, that is in non-taxable territory. So far the view is this, लेकिन ये लोग टैक्स कर रहे हैं, इन सर्विस को भी टैक्स करने लगे हैं ये लोग इशू कर रहे हैं, but it's non-taxable territory, this cannot be taxed. So that also bringing into India. एक्सपोर्ट के केस में भी जो डिबेट बनती है, ये कहाँ लिखा है टेकिंग आउट, ओनली सप्लायर हैज टू टेक इट आउट, तो लिखा तो है नहीं, तो व्हाई कांट यू एक्सपोर्ट टू एन एजेंट? But that's a debate. We shall not learn this in this class. Only when you come into practice, you will read it yourself. Or maybe in future, if you do advanced classes, then we shall discuss those cases also. ये लिखा कहीं नहीं है law में कि only supplier has to export. But since the supplier has to claim the export benefit, then perhaps manifestly it is understood that only supplier should export. But there is no language used by legislature that it should be done by the supplier or by the importer. Bringing goods into India. So goods have to come to India. Now supposing there is a foreign company which has branch office in Bombay. They import goods, you buy from them. This is not import. This is intrastate or interstate supply. But these are not imports. That is, you can say there is no reverse charge on such things. So an exporter may have a company office here where he imports goods and sells. That doesn't become import. So there also indirectly means that you must prove that you brought the goods into India, right? So you cannot tell the company के जैसे ये जितने एयरपोर्ट में बनते हैं ये transaction हुई थी, I'm a part of those transactions, but we also gave opinion, no, this is not import. This is local transaction. It's by tax and they pay tax. So you have to be careful कि अगर जहाँ पर कुछ benefit लेना है, टैक्स देना एक अलग बात, टैक्स दे के आपको पैसा वापस मांगना, you have to strictly construe these kind of things. Notification or a provision giving benefit shall be strictly construed. That means you must satisfy all the conditions. If not, you have absolutely no claim. That is the meaning of section 16(2). You fail to prove goods physically received, you are out. आपको इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. You might say मैंने पूरी पेमेंट की है, इनपुट टैक्स दिया है, मेरा बैंक का है, ये सब कुछ हम जो लिखते हैं हमने हमारे पिटीशन में, you have to still focus क्या है मेरी 6 कंडीशन सेटिस्फाई होती है 16(2) की 5 जो भी है, आपको हर लाइन का जवाब देना अपने रिप्लाई में. It says sir, I'm a registered dealer, I have a tax invoice, this is my business, I bought these goods or services both for a person's business. Number 2, I have physically received the goods, these are the evidences with me. जो भी आप देखना चाहते हैं. I filed my valid return section 39(1). Suppliers filed return, paid taxes, and have claimed input tax credit within limitation, and have made payment within 180 days. आपको हर चीज के लिख के नीचे उसकी एक्सप्लेनेशन देनी है. Therefore, in view of the above, my input tax credit cannot be denied. You need not have any judgment to that effect. If you are able to prove it. हम क्या लिखते हैं? हम कोई कंडीशन नहीं लिखते हैं. सीधा शुरू करते हैं, मेरा इंटरेस्ट हो गया, ठीक है, मैंने पेमेंट किया, मेरा टैक्स इनवॉइस है, मेरे बैंक अकाउंट है, हमारा स्टॉक लेजर है. It has no relevance. So these documents are relevant to a particular condition in 16(2). It's not relevant for 16(1) and 16(2) as a whole. So therefore, whenever you draft such replies, you have to mention 1 condition, 2 conditions, 3 conditions, give an explanation below each condition. Okay, how are you proving it? And I'm sure most of the time you realize you cannot prove it, because your client may not have any document with him. पेमेंट किसको की थी? सर पेमेंट तो एजेंट आया था, चेक ले गया था. And I've seen transactions where when we examine the bank accounts, those checks were not given to the supplier. They are given to somebody else. So today it's an IT era, you will be easily caught. If you certify these documents to be correct, you are doing a forgery. It's nothing but a forgery. So wherever you have a show cause notice, you have to sit down with your client, examine to this extent. Don't go by the ledger account कि मिस्टर वर्मा के डॉक्यूमेंट सारी पेमेंट चेक की है. Do a random checking के बैंक में अगर मिस्टर वर्मा को चेक क्रेडिट हुआ था, कोई सुरेश अग्रवाल ले गया, लेजर एक एंट्री डाल दी, वो सीए ने बैलेंस शीट बना दी, सारा बैंक रिकॉन्साइल हो गया, नहीं सब ठीक है, कर दिया. that is the case when you read such definition, there is a cumulative condition to be satisfied. You have to be very, very careful on such things. Import of services, there is nothing much. We come to intermediary. There has been a huge debate between Gujarat High Court, Madras High Court, Bombay High Court and Supreme Court. The Supreme Court finally confirming about the meaning of intermediary. It was a bone of contention in service tax regime also, and here also it will continue. Intermediary means, again a means definition. I told you entire IGS uses the word means. They want to restrict the interpretation so that they are not into courts of law on interpretation issue. Means a broker, an agent. Go back to section 2 CDST. Let's understand what's the meaning of whether broker word is defined. I'm sure it's not defined. Broker word is not defined. But agent की definition में आएगा. Agent includes broker. Section 2(5). Agent means a person, including a factor, broker. So intermediary says means a broker, an agent. They are using the word broker before an agent. That means most of the transactions are done by brokers, not agents, who earn commission. An agent or any other person by whatever name called, who arranges or facilitates. These two are very significant words in this definition. Who arranges? Who plans how to do it? That's the meaning in English of the word arranges. What I was reading when you came to bar, Suresh. I was reading the meaning of these two words. So what the meaning of arranges? Who makes plans how to do it? Now supposing we say tea biscuits, Mr. Suresh Agrawal will arrange. This means what? You have never arranged, of course, that's a different reason. That means you will plan how to get tea and how to get biscuits. Right? This is the meaning of arranging. Or facilitates. That is, who brings resources on record. How this arrangement shall be financed or executed. That is the meaning of a word called facilitates. So any person who acts as a broker or as an agent or by whatever name called, who can arrange or facilitate what? Let's read further. The supply of goods or services or both. So supply is defined, agent is defined. Arranging the facility means this. For supply of goods or services or both. Or securities. ये जितनी म्यूचुअल फंड की ट्रांजैक्शंस हैं, ये सब लोग फंसे हुए आज. They were saying कि no, these are things are not a part of securities. Now they have been given notice कि जो लोग इंटरनेशनल म्यूचुअल फंड बेसिक खरीदते हैं बाहर के लोगों के लिए, they have been being termed by Ministry of Finance as intermediary. They tax. Get my point? So these definitions have very vast meanings. Securities between two or more persons. That is, a broker or an agent by whatever, or any other person by whatever name called. He must arrange or facilitate the supply of goods or services or both for two or more persons. दो बंदे तो होने चाहिए ना, एक importer है, एक exporter है, two or more persons. Now supposing STC appoints Sushil Verma as an intermediary to import palm oil from Malaysia. Right? I plan, make arrangements. What arrangements? Letter of credit, banking, उनके formats, उनके orders क्या क्या हैं? That is why facilitate this entire working, which has to be done to plan, to arrange the import of palm oil from Malaysia to India. Now supposing STC के अलावा चार कंपनियां और भी, हल्दीराम है for example, ये भी मेरा भी कर दो. I am the only one person. So what I am doing? I am trying to arrange or facilitate the import of palm oil from Malaysia to Indian importers. Two or more persons. There are two or more persons. The exporter है और जहाँ 4,000 लोग हैं. Right? Let's read further before we conclude this discussion. But does not include a person who supplies such goods or services or both or securities on his own account. This also has no meaning. Supreme Court has said कि अगर ये इसमें टैक्स वसूल दे रहे हैं फिर क्या झगड़ा किस बात का है? So when I do intermediary, so what am I called? I am called a broker, an agent, or any other person by whatever name called. That is, I am earning a commission. These transactions are not on principal to principal basis. It's not between a Malaysian company and STC directly. If that were so, then the transactions are being done on their own account. There is no intermediary involved. Are you clear? Are we clear on this? So intermediary shall come into play only when he has to arrange or facilitate supply of goods or services of both between two or more persons. So intermediary transaction presupposes existence of three people: exporter, importer, and intermediary. If there was no intermediary in transaction between exporter and importer in India, then this is on their own account. So you are out of intermediary, right? Whether tax payable or not, reverse charge में जो होना वो अलग बात है. There is no intermediary. Now the question before Gujarat High Court and Bombay High Court was they were differing. जैसे इसे जमाना कि इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस में बढ़ाना है, इंटरमीडिएट को टैक्स क्यों करते हो? सुप्रीम कोर्ट सेड नो, वी विल गो बाय लॉ. इट्स फॉर द गवर्नमेंट टू मेक चेंजेस इन लॉ. सो इंटरमीडिएरी प्लेस जितने आपके यूनिवर्सिटी में एडमिशन होते हैं, आते हैं ना ऑस्ट्रेलिया इंग्लैंड आ जाते हैं बड़े बड़े लेके. मेरे पास है 3 एडवांस स्टूडेंट्स आर पेंडिंग फॉर लास्ट 2 years here. We have told them you will have to pay tax, but they didn't agree. अब वो यूनिवर्सिटी में यहाँ आते तो सुरेश अग्रवाल in charge of one of the companies, like say for example, so what are you doing? You are arranging a meeting of students between study union and then facilitating their admission forms etc. to get admission. So therefore you fall in the category of intermediary. ऐसे बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल, दुनिया भर के एग्जाम्पल. ये जितने लोग शादियां करवाते हैं, इंटर कंट्री मैरिजेस, they are all subject to tax. They are brokers. लड़का दुबई में बैठा है, कोई मुसलमान की बेटी जहाँ यूपी में बैठी है, वो इंटरनेट पे झगड़े झगड़े करके उनकी शादी फिक्स कर रहा है and charging you money. He is acting as an intermediary because he is not marrying. He is arranging or मैं डर सा लग गया कि शादी तो करनी नहीं चाहिए. इलाही और फेशियल रिएक्शन वाज एक्सट्रीमली हॉरिबल. शादी के नाम पे डर, मैं भी डर गया था एकदम. जोक्स अपार्ट. So he is not marrying. If he was interacting with a Muslim boy or Muslim girl in Dubai, he was marrying himself. There are two persons, there is no third person. So intermediary transactions presuppose a third person who has to act. It's a means definition: broker, agent, or by whatever name called. Right? So when we say broker, agent, or whatever name called, again you will apply rule of existence generis. Whatever name you call, he must be in the category of broker or agent. You can call him a facilitator. If you go back to the VAT regime, the Supreme Court had passed a judgment in state of Andhra Pradesh versus Larsen and Toubro, 145 STC1, where they say that once there is a relationship of agency, transaction is one, not two. That is, if you were a principal contractor and he is the employer, a contractee, I am a subcontractor. The employer gives contract to Suresh Agarwal, कि ये मेरा conference room बना दीजिए. Same contract Suresh Agarwal assigns to me on back-to-back basis. If Mr. Verma, you make, he does a transaction of 100 rupees, sub assigns to me for 80 rupees. Supreme Court said there is no tax payable by Suresh Agarwal because agent steps into the shoes of principal, right? But here, by defining intermediary, they have sidetracked this law. They say no, you don't step into their shoes. अगर ये intermediary वहाँ define नहीं होता, तो वो court cases हम कहते हैं. Now since this body is defined here, so we have a problem. Are we clear, intermediary? So now supposing you are processing a refund application. अब क्या देखना आपको? वो कहते हैं जी मेरे तो 100 एक्सपोर्ट बिल है, सारे लेके आओ. That is your job. That you are processing a refund. You must satisfy. अब आप देखते हो जी आपके 50 तो डायरेक्ट हैं, 50 एज एन इंटरमीडियरी हैं. अब आप एग्जामिन कर रहे हैं कि वेदर इंटरमीडिएट इज इन दिस सेंस और इट्स ऑन देयर ओन। कैसे करेंगे? बोलेंगे आपकी पेमेंट है इसके पास? नहीं था, ये तो कमीशन है। That means your returns were wrongly filed. You claimed exports when there was no claim for exports. So you are in a very serious mess now. And maybe you have been continuing this transaction for the last 4 years. 4 साल से आप ये धंधा कर रहे हो, आपके रिटर्न ही गलत। So when we talk of valid return in section 39(1), the word valid has been defined by Supreme Court. Valid means which is legitimate in accordance with law. Law may change. Law is not a static concept, it's a dynamic concept. It lives like us. It changes daily. Supreme Court changes their judgment on a drop of a hat. They review their judgment, they go to constitutional bench, full bench, they keep changing the law. So अगर आपने की एक रिटर्न शुरू में गलत भरी गई है, वो सिस्टम इज बीइंग फॉलोड, you should be sure all subsequent returns are wrong. Then your client is in serious mess. So that is the importance of when you file returns. This is the only act where returns are defined twice. Definition. बाकी तो हर जगह 2 रिटर्न बनती हैं, हर एक्ट में बनती हैं। एक हमारे डेफिनेशन में था, रिटर्न और वैलिड रिटर्न। Then 16, we are not touching this recipient services, इसको बाद में करेंगे। हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे जो ऑनलाइन डाटा आप रिट्रीव करते हैं, इसकी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी क्या है। Just read definition. Now there are exceptions created in subsection 16. This is another unique provision where exemption is being given in definition itself. It's not a part of charging section. It's a part of definition. If you have to change definition, you have to change the whole act. So wherever this word is used, all the sections need to be amended. Otherwise you can't amend the definition. So definition amendment is more difficult than a particular provision. It says non-taxable online recipient. आपने म्यूजिक डाउनलोड किया, फिल्म डाउनलोड किया, बुक्स डाउनलोड की, ऐसे डाल के हम आर्टिकल जजमेंट डाउनलोड करते हैं, किस केस में वो टैक्सेबल नहीं है। I don't know, but they are very clear. Means any government, local authority, whose government? Go to subsection 9. IGST. Government means the central government. In state act, the word is state government is there, not central government. Government, local authorities as defined in explanation, governmental authority, an individual or any other person not religious. Normally you don't pay. Even if there is a charge being done by foreign buyer, in India you still don't have to pay reverse charge because you are an individual or a government or a local authority or a government authority. They have been exempted from paying tax. Only other than, because the margin marginal handling, non-taxable online recipient. So if you are a recipient, if you want to be non-taxable for these kind of activities, prove if you are not a registered person and you are not downloading or retrieving this information for any purpose other than trade, commerce, the business or profession. Are you clear? So wherever this definition exists, see the explanation. For the purpose of this clause, government authority means this, only for this purpose of this clause. Whatever conditions are there. Come to section 219. Special economic zone. When you come to section 16(0) rating, you will use this. Special economic zone shall have the same meaning assigned to it class 2ZA, ZA of section 2 of the Special Economic Zones Act. This means it can be a free trade zone, it could be warehouse, or it can be the existing SEZ, provided it is notified under section 3 of SEZ Act. All SEZ are not SEZ for the purpose of IGST Act. They must be notified in SEZ Act 2005. Only then. अभी जितने आपके कोल्ड स्टोरेज बने हुए हरियाणा के पास, they cannot claim any benefit because they are not under a particular act. If they want any relief, they have to go under the act, and those acts have very special requirements. They have to satisfy. वो नहीं बनेंगे. अनिल अंबानी ने एक एसिड बनाया था दादरी में, which was rejected. He lost hundreds of crores on that project because his team did not take approvals to declare this acid act. Mukul Rohde argued in Supreme Court many months. No, it was rejected. किसी चीज का आपको बेनिफिट लेना है, उसमें कोई एक्ट में कोई डेफिनेशन है, आपको उसके डेफिनेशन को सेटिस्फाई करना. नाउ व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ प्रोफेशनल्स? वो कहते हैं जी हमने एसिड को सप्लाई किया, बिल दिखा दिया उसने आपको. इट इज अगेन योर जॉब टू से वेदर ही सप्लाई टू एसिड और ए डेवलपर और ए को डेवलपर. ओनली 3 थिंग्स आर यूज्ड इन जीएसटी लॉ. आपको सेटिस्फाई करना है. कैसे करेंगे? आपके पास एसिड एक्ट होना चाहिए. इसकी डेफिनेशन क्या देखिए, वो पूरी करता है. क्या वो डेवलपर बनता है, क्या वो को डेवलपर बनता है, इसके हिसाब से कितने बनता है उसका नहीं आता. नॉर्मली वहाँ पर जो डेवलपमेंट कमिश्नर होता है वो सर्टिफिकेट इशू करता है कि दीज गुड्स आर यूज्ड फॉर दिस पर्पस. एक प्रैक्टिस में एक सर्टिफिकेट भी साथ होना चाहिए, बिकॉज इट इज योर क्लेम. यू आर क्लेमिंग कि यू मेड ए सप्लाई इन सेक्शन 16 जीरो रेटिंग. हु इज टू प्रूव? यू. You cannot say ये कोई रिक्वायरमेंट है. You are baby. You prove. जिस दिन आप फंसेंगे और आप ये प्रूव नहीं कर सकेंगे तो आपके सारा रिफंड विल बी टेकन बैक विद इंटरेस्ट एंड पेनल्टी. तो जहां ये डेफिनेशन हमें रिस्ट्रिक्ट करती हैं, you have to go through the definition and see this is okay. Then special economic zone developer shall have the same meaning as assigned to it in class G of section 2 of Special Economic Zone Act 2005 and includes an authority as defined in class G and a co-developer as defined in section 2F. 2G में कुछ 3-4 कंडीशन है, 2F में भी कोड ऑफ अथॉरिटी. ये सारी चीजें आपको वहां पढ़नी है. 2 लाइन की डेफिनेशन है. I have it with me but I don't want to go through it, but you have to read if they have a case like this. अब सपोजिंग अमित के पास एक बंदा आता है, जी मैंने तो एसिड सप्लाई किया, मेरा 10 करोड़ का रिफंड है. अमित क्या है, 1% भी दे, 1 लाख तो आता है. करेंगे आज, कर देंगे जी. देगा नहीं आपको 1 लाख कोई आजकल, रिश्वत दिखानी पड़ेगी. 1 लाख फीस कोई नहीं देता. नाउ यू हैव टू कॉल हिम दैट द डॉक्यूमेंट लेकर, एंड देन जिसको आपने माल बेचा, ये वही है जो आपके सी फॉर्म की सेल करते थे ना, कि कंपनी सॉफ्टवेयर की उसको 100 टन पेंट बेच दिया. हमारे पास केस आया महाराष्ट्र में, कहते ये कंपनी तो सॉफ्टवेयर थी, ये पेंट क्या 100 टन पेंट क्या किया उन्होंने. वो सीडीज बनाते थे, म्यूजिक सीडीज, टी सीरीज की कंपनी. कहते आरसी में पेंट अलाउड है, बट इट्स नॉट आवर पर्पस. दैट्स लीगली वी वर करेक्ट, बट द ट्रिब्यूनल वेंट इनटू, दे लुक्ड बिहाइंड द ट्रांजैक्शन. Mr. Verma, notwithstanding Tribunal of the Supreme Court, your transaction itself is not bona fide. Therefore, no judgment is issued. So your transaction cannot be bona fide at all. Apple you built to an IT company. ये 100 टन पेंट क्या किया? ये कोई बिल्डिंगें बनाते थे, ये कोई रियल एस्टेट डेवलपर थे, इन्होंने क्या किया इस पेंट का? So once your transaction itself is doubted, even if you satisfy the legal requirements, that transaction is liable to be rejected. Because your claims come consequence of a transaction. We say your transaction didn't happen. जैसे जी आईटीसी के झगड़े हैं, बिल काटा, पेमेंट आई, पता है माल दिया ही नहीं आपने, तो किस बात की ट्रांजैक्शन आपकी? हम we don't bother about the documents. So is the case here. Whenever you apply to these kind of specified agencies, SEZ developer or co-developer, you have to go through definition of section 2Z, SEZ Act and 2D and 2G. कि ये क्या चीज है? तो आपको पूछना चाहिए आपने एसईजेड में किसको सप्लाई किया. एसईजेड अथॉरिटी भी एसईजेड है, फ्री ट्रेड जोन भी एसईजेड है, एनी पर्सन भी एसईजेड है, एंड एग्जिस्टिंग एसईजेड जो 2005 से पहले बने थे वो भी डेफिनेटली इंक्लूडेड है. डेवलपर जो डायरेक्टली डेवलप करता है, को डेवलपर इज सब एजेंट. हमने किसको किया था? बोलेगा नहीं जी वो सुरेश अग्रवाल एसईजेड दिल्ली. अच्छा कौन सा बताओ तो सही, कौन है ये बंदा? देन व्हेन यू गो टू देयर साइट यू विल गेट फुल डिटेल्स ऑफ दिस एसईजेड पर्सन. ये बंदा कौन था? Now there you might say that he was located in SEZ, but he was a contractor. The goods were not used by SEZ, goods were used by contractor. SEZ का address है. So when you look behind a transaction, you come to. So that is where again your job is when you start processing these kind of refund applications based on IGST provisions, you have to ensure that you are verifying everything carefully and properly, right? Come to next, subsection 24. Words and expressions used and not defined in the Act but defined in CGST Act shall have the same meaning as assigned to them in those acts. Those 160 definitions, out of this you have done around 90. अगर वो इस एक्ट में यूज किए गए उनका मतलब वही है. That is, if those words that have been defined in CGST Act are appearing in IGST Act as well, you cannot resort to common parlance meaning. The meaning is defined in GST law itself, therefore you have to stick your interpretation to that meaning only. Clear? Section 5. Levy collection is same section 7, but we'll do one or two provisions of this. Subsection 1, first proviso. We have done this, we'll read this here. Provided that IGST on goods imported into India shall be levied and collected in accordance with provision of section 3 on the value determined in the said act at the point when duties of custom are levied on the said goods under section 12 of Customs Act. Section 3 is the charging section. Section 14 deals with valuation, and section 12 deals with levy of custom duty. That is, supposing you placed an order on import of goods on 1st January 2022. Goods landed in India on 1st June 2022. You file bill of entry on 1st July. Custom duty as on 1st July 22 shall be levied. When you file bill of entry, that is the law. And therefore you pay by GST वैसे जो भी आपको देना है. Again section 15 principles apply here also. Other principles. लेकिन जो आपकी बेसिक ड्यूटी है, कोई सेफ ड्यूटी लगती है, एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी लगती है, ये सारी जो एडिशनल ड्यूटीज लगती हैं वो सारी ड्यूटीज आर पार्ट ऑफ योर ट्रांजैक्शन. दैट इज आपका इनवॉइस वैल्यू 100 रुपए का था, राइट? उसके ऊपर जो 8 रुपए की ड्यूटीज और लगी बिफोर योर बिल ऑफ एंट्री वाज क्लियर्ड फॉर बाय सुपरिटेंडेंट. आप गुड्स ले जाओ तो 108 रुपए पे आपको कस्टम ड्यूटी देनी है और 108 रुपए पे आपको IGST देना है. Why? Because section 15 excludes only GST taxes, not other taxes. There is no exclusion for other taxes. So anything levied at the point of customs can become a part of your valuation. So in the meantime, if there is a duty increase, you suffer. If there is a meantime dollar has gone upward, rupee has lost, you suffer. So all those people whose goods were not clear disputes, dollar has gone up by 6% in last 1 year. So if you imported worth $1 crore, you have lost 6% already that you have to pay now, right? So section this, the first proviso section 5 says कि जो imported goods का valuation आप custom act के हिसाब से करेंगे, जो भी वहाँ valuation है. बहुत सारी चीजें हैं यहाँ पर, but we are not getting into those details कि custom act में क्या-क्या झगड़े होते हैं valuation पर. The only question is, supposing you filed a bill of entry, आपका accept हो गया. We have discussed many times, again we will repeat. Now since valuation is as per section 3, that is section 12, if tomorrow this bill of entry is reassessed, you will be liable to pay IGST again. And if you are paid after notice, section 16 bars input tax credit. So there again, the GST law, for the purpose of GST law, you have to ensure that when you file bill of entry, which is self-assessment, you are declaring a correct notification and doing correct valuation. So whenever you find this guy is an importer, do random checking. बोलेगा जी वैसे तो 25% ड्यूटी है पर नोटिफिकेशन में 5% है. नोटिफिकेशन लाओ, देखो उसको. आप देखो जी नोटिफिकेशन में कंडीशन है कि these goods are 5% if they are supplied to state government as defined. When you examine the definition और जिसको माल बेचा आप कहते हैं state government नहीं, तो 5% नहीं. और the notification says कि this exemption exists if you are supplying to OEMs. You have not supplied to OEM, you have supplied to another fellow who has supplied to OEMs. Again, you are not satisfying the condition of notification. So this is again, wherever you're dealing with imports, you have clients import goods. This is another area where not only you can make money, but also you can enrich your knowledge by going through those documents. Typing. Right? Right? Up now? Up. Huh? Up simple. पहले टॉपिक